Pirate Spies by David Russo. Chapter 1. Ghosts in the Fog. Just before sunrise, a dense veil of mist swallowed the bay, turning the world into a blur of smoke and silence. The sky hung like a cold sheet of steel, and the ocean murmured beneath its mask of fog. Cutting through the stillness, a sleek black schooner drifted forward like a shadow loosed from the night. No Jolly Roger flew overhead, only a lone silver eye, glinting faintly like it knew something the world didn't. At the prow stood Captain Marl, his coat snapping in the breeze like a banner from some forgotten war. One gloved hand lifted a spyglass to his eye, scanning the serrated coastline. "There," he muttered. "Thieves, outlaws, or maybe the first of a new breed." Below deck, the air was thick with salt, sweat, and the bitter tang of stale tobacco. A dozen figures waited in uneasy silence, scattered between crates and coiled ropes, scarred faces, gold teeth catching lantern light, calloused hands worn by years of grit and blood, but none had ever been summoned for something like this. The hatch creaked open, spilling in Marlowe's long shadow. Conversation died. Eyes sharpened, bodies tensed. "You call yourselves pirates?" Marlowe said, his voice like gravel and gunpowder. "You chase coin, rum, and glory? I'm here to tell you those days are over." A massive man with a bone threaded into his beard let out a grunt of laughter. "I'm not here for bedtime stories, Captain. I want gold, not ghost tales." Marlowe smiled, but it was a smile without warmth. "Then you won't last long." The big man fell silent. Marlowe stepped fully into the hold, his gaze cutting across the room. The seas have changed. Every port's a trap. Every merchant's armed to the teeth. Spies work the docks like rats in the grain. We're not fighting ships anymore. We're fighting shadows. He tossed a rolled parchment onto a crate. "This is your new map. Not a buried treasure, but to something rarer. Knowledge, survival, power. You'll train at Blackfin Cove. There, we strip away the pirate and build something more." A lean woman with daggers strapped to her sides tilted her head. "What's the price?" "The price," Marlowe said, his tone suddenly ice, "is failure. Fail, and you vanish. Turn traitor, and the sea forgets your name." No one laughed this time. A heavy silence settled like dust. A younger voice broke it, a scarred boy, barely more than a man. "What exactly do spies do? Sneak messages to the Navy? Pick a few pockets?" Marlowe's laugh was hollow. "Yes, and far more. You'll learn to become what others fear. Disguises so flawless, you'll walk through fire and not be known. Codes hidden in casual speech. Weapons hidden in boots. Knowledge buried in maps. We fight with silence, with shadows." He gestured toward the dock. "Your ship, the Silent Gale, isn't just wood and sail. She's whatever we need her to be. A ghost ship, a fishing boat, a whisper on the tide." His gaze turned razor sharp. "You won't be pirates, you'll be myths." The room held its breath, every recruit feeling the shift in the air. This was no longer a promise of riches. It was an invitation to become something less seen and more feared. The man with the beard grunted again, slower this time. "Sounds like hell." Marlowe's smile returned, cold, precise. "Then it's the right kind of hell." Outside, dawn began to slice through the mist. Light gilded the waves in gold. The fog peeled away like the curtain on a stage, revealing the vast unknown beyond. Marlowe looked once more at the recruits. "Welcome to the new age of piracy." They said nothing, but something had shifted in their eyes. They weren't chasing gold anymore. They were hunting secrets. Chapter 2. Black Shadow Initiation. Black Shadow Cove was a jagged scar of an island, half hidden by sheer cliffs and tangled mist, half swallowed by waves that gnawed at its rocky edges. The silent gale slipped into the cove like a whisper, sails furled, hull silent. Captain Marlowe stood waiting at the dock, arms folded, boots planted like he was part of the island itself. Wind howled through crooked trees above, and the shadows moved like they were watching. "This," he said, as the recruits stepped ashore, "is where legends are made or buried." A wiry man with a face full of old cuts stepped forward. First Mate Calder. "I'm your trainer, tormentor, and test. Survive what I teach, and you'll work as pirate spies." A young woman, daggers on both hips, fire in her stare, snorted. "What's the point? Still sounds like pirates in fancy coats." Calder's grin was knife sharp. "Then you're thinking too small. A sword wins one fight. A shadow wins 100. He led them through a winding path into the island's gut. Around them, a strange camp buzzed with quiet intensity. Figures in black leather moved silently between tents. Tables groaned with gear, lockpicks, scrolls full of symbols, odd devices that hummed and clicked like enchanted relics. Calder held up 2 eye patches. These, not for show. One scans, one spies, one sees through lies. Wear 'em wrong, and they'll blind you before the enemy gets the chance. A recruit grumbled. "What's next? Magic boots?" Marlowe's voice came from the trees. "Boots with blades, shoes with signals. This isn't costume, it's survival." At a long table, Calder spread out strange tools and coded parchment. First lesson, messages hidden in plain sight. These scribbles, they're orders, maps, warnings. Crack the code or die in ignorance. One pirate squinted. "Looks like a drunk seagull dance on the page." Calder nodded. "That's the point." Training began in earnest. Silent movement through thick brush. Infiltrating a guarded tent without being seen. Communicating with only glances and gestures. One man, Rourke, knocked over a crate in his haste. The crash echoed through the trees. Calder's voice was like a slap. "Noise gets you killed. Try again." "I'm trying," Rourke muttered. "Then try harder. You're not here to be loud. You're here to be invisible." As the day bled into dusk, Marlowe summoned them by the fire. Flames flickered, casting long shadows that danced with secrets. "Night," he said, "you shed your old names. Build new lives, new stories. If anyone ever sees through your disguise, you vanish permanently." Lena, the daggered woman, asked, "And if they don't believe the lie?" Marlowe didn't blink. "Then you become it, because a pirate spy doesn't get second chances." Silence settled again, the kind of silence that comes before something big, something permanent. They weren't pirates anymore. They were phantoms, ghosts, cloaked in stories and silence. And the ocean was no longer just a place to sail. It was a chessboard. Chapter 3. The Ghost Ship Illusion. The silent gale rocked gently in the sheltered waters of Blackfin Cove. Her black sails furled as the crew gathered on deck. The early morning fog clung low, wrapping the ship like a ghostly shroud. Today's lesson was crucial: how to vanish in plain sight. Captain Marlowe stood on the quarter-deck, his eyes gleaming beneath the brim of his hat. "This ship," he began, "isn't just a vessel. She's a weapon, a shield, and a mask. Today, you'll learn how to turn her into whatever we need." First Mate Calder stepped forward, a rolled canvas in hand. "The enemy watches the seas for ships like ours. A pirate with a black flag is trouble. So we give them trouble dressed as something else entirely." He unfurled the canvas, revealing blueprints and sketches of the silent gale transformed into a humble fishing trawl with nets and barrels, a merchant ship stacked with crates, even a ghost ship with tattered sails and eerie lanterns. Lena ran a hand along the wooden railing, skeptical. So we just slap on some paint and call it a day? Calder shook his head. No, disguise is deeper than paint. It's the way you move, the smells you bring, the story you tell. Look here. He pointed to the hull. Hidden compartments for smuggling goods or spies, smoke pots to make the ship seem old and battered, sound mufflers to sneak up on enemy docks. Rourke, still nursing his bruised pride from training, stepped closer. What about the ghost ship trick? Sounds like a story for scared children. Marlowe's grin was sharp. Stories have power. The ghost ship is real, a legend we use to sow fear. At night, we drape nets and torn sails, light green lanterns that flicker like will o' the wisps. The enemy thinks they're seeing spirits of the drowned, and they flee before we even fire a shot. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Lena whispered, sounds like sorcery. Calder laughed. Better to be sorcerers than dead men, eh? The men and women of the crew gathered in the ship's hold where crates of paints, lanterns, and odd devices waited. Marlowe handed out tasks. You, Rourke, painting. Lena and Calder, setting up the smoke pots and lanterns. The rest of you, help with the nets and barrels. The work began, voices low as the crew transformed the silent gale. Paint was mixed with charcoal and seaweed to create the faded, weathered look of a fishing vessel. Nets were hoisted and tangled. Barrels rolled across the deck to create clutter. Rourke paused, brushing sweat from his brow. Why all this effort? Wouldn't it be easier to fight head on? Marlowe's voice was quiet but deadly serious. Because fighting head on is how you die. Out here, it's not about strength, it's about cunning. A pirate who can be anything is a pirate who can never be caught. As the afternoon sun dipped, the crew gathered on deck to inspect their work. The silent gale was no longer a sleek, black schooner. Now she looked like a tired fishing trawler, weather-beaten and slow. Lena nodded slowly. I'll admit, it's convincing. Suddenly, a lookout's voice cut through the quiet. Ship off the starboard bow. The crew froze. Marlowe raised his spyglass, eyes narrowing. A Navy cutter, he muttered. Time to see if our ghost is ready. Hands moved swiftly. Lanterns were lit. Smoke pots cracked to life, and the crew took their positions. The ship's timbers creaked and groaned. Sails fluttered as if caught in an unnatural breeze. The cutter drew closer, crew on deck staring warily at the strange, flickering vessel. Marlowe's voice was calm but commanding. Hold steady. Let them think what they want. Minutes passed like hours until finally the cutter veered away, spooked by the eerie apparition before it. A cheer broke out on the silent gale. Lena grinned, breathless. Ghost ship, indeed. Marlowe smiled, eyes shining in the lantern light. Remember this night, crew. The sea is full of eyes, but if you learn to wear the right mask, you can sail unseen forever. Chapter 4, Dock of Deception. The port of Ravensaft bustled with life beneath a sky heavy with clouds. Ships of every kind creaked and groaned at their moorings, while merchants shouted over the clamor of carts and seagulls. The smell of salt and spice mingled with the distant clang of hammers on metal. The silent gale, now disguised as a humble spice trader's ship, slid silently into a shadow berth near the edge of the docks. The crew moved quickly but quietly, their faces hardened with the knowledge that this was more than a simple stop. It was their first real mission. Captain Marlowe stood near the gangplank, eyeing the bustling dock workers. Remember, we're spice traders, not pirates. Keep your heads low, your stories straight. This is a game of shadows. Lena adjusted the heavy sack of spices she carried, actually filled with coded messages and spy gear. If anyone asks, We're just here to sell cinnamon and clove. Rourke gave a tight nod. And if they don't buy our story? Marlowe's gaze hardened. Then we improvise, but no fights. Not yet. The crew stepped ashore, blending quickly into the crowd. Lena and Calder headed toward the bustling market stalls, eyeing suspicious figures trading in the shadows. Keep an ear out, Calder whispered. The stolen map we're after won't be handed over in broad daylight. They moved through narrow alleys, passing taverns with cracked signs, the Rusty Anchor, the Crooked Hook, and past carts selling salted fish and dried fruit. The air hummed with whispered deals and furtive glances. Lena's sharp eyes caught a man slipping a folded parchment into a leather satchel. There, she whispered. That's our mark. Marlowe nodded. We need to follow him discreetly. The man weaved through the crowd, heading toward a tavern with a faded sign, the Siren's Call. Inside, shadows clung to the corners, and the low murmur of voices spilled into the street. Calder glanced at Marlowe. This place reeks of trouble. Marlowe grinned. Then it's exactly where we need to be. Inside the Siren's Call, the crew split up, each taking a seat where they could watch entrances and exits without drawing attention. Lena ordered a mug of watered-down ale, eyes never leaving the door. After what felt like hours, the man reappeared, now joined by a wiry figure in a dark cloak. They exchanged the satchel for a small leather-bound book before slipping out. Marlowe's voice was barely a whisper. That's the map. Now what? Rourke asked, fingers twitching near his dagger. We wait for the right moment, Marlowe said, and we don't move alone. The crew followed the pair at a careful distance, moving through twisting alleys and over creaking docks. Suddenly, the man stopped at a hidden door marked with a faded symbol, a kraken's eye. Lena glanced at Marlowe. This must be the smuggling ring's hideout. Exactly, Marlowe said. We need to get inside, quietly. Calder produced a set of lockpicks from his coat. Leave this to me. The door clicked open with a soft snap, and the crew slipped inside the darkened warehouse. Crates stamped with foreign seals were stacked high, and the air smelled of salt and gunpowder. They moved like shadows, the tension thick. Then footsteps echoed from above. A group of armed men descending the stairs. Marlowe hissed, Positions! The crew melted into the darkness, ready to strike, but knowing this was only the beginning. Chapter 5. The Cipher of the Kraken's Eye. The dim lit of the lantern flickered against the rough wooden walls of the Silent Gale's cabin. The air was thick with anticipation and something else, unease. The crew gathered around a battered table where a single parchment lay unrolled. Marlowe's eyes scanning the strange symbols and twisting lines, no ordinary pirate markings. This was the cipher of the Kraken's Eye, a coded message whispered about in the darkest corners of the sea. Only those who had passed the toughest tests of Black Shadow Cove could even begin to understand it. Lena leaned forward, fingers tracing the delicate ink. It's like nothing I've ever seen. A mix of symbols, numbers, and some kind of pattern. Calder, always a skeptic, frowned. Looks like nonsense to me. Rourke snorted. Maybe it's a trap. Could be poison ink for all we know. Marlowe raised a hand, silencing them. This message is the key. It's what's next, the direction we must take. He tapped a symbol shaped like a swirling tentacle. The Kraken's Eye is a legend, but the cipher proves it's real. There's a sea-based weapon out there, controlled by a network of spy devices. Lena's eyes widened. A weapon? Against who? Everyone, Marlowe said. If those devices fall into the wrong hands, whole cities could be wiped out. We can't let that happen. Calder shifted uneasily. So how do we crack this code? What's the key? Marlowe smiled, a cold glint in his eyes. The test you passed back at Black Shadow Cove, that was just the beginning. Only those trained in the ancient cipher methods can read this. He pulled a small, worn book from his coat, a manual filled with symbols and decoding techniques. Tonight, we'll work through this together. The crew huddled close as Marlowe began to explain. The complicated patterns gradually revealing their secrets. Letters hidden in the curves of waves, numbers embedded in the stars, and clues concealed in the shape of the kraken itself. Hours slipped by in silence, broken only by quiet murmurs and the scratching of quills on parchment. Lena's voice trembled as she pointed to a series of numbers. This part here. If we apply the cipher from the test, it spells out coordinates. Calder's skepticism faded into awe. Coordinates to where? Marlowe's eyes gleamed. To the heart of the Lethan protocol. Rourke's jaw tightened. Sounds like trouble. It is, Marlowe agreed, and it's up to us to stop it. Suddenly, a sharp rap came at the cabin door. All eyes snapped toward the sound. Who goes there? Marlowe called, his hand moving toward the dagger at his belt. The door creaked open just enough to reveal a soaked messenger, his face pale. Captain, urgent news. The rogue admiral's forces are moving faster than we thought. They know about the cipher. Lena exchanged a glance with Marlowe, the weight of their mission settling heavy. Then there's no time to lose, Marlowe said. We break the code fully tonight. Tomorrow we set sail for the islands. The crew nodded, determination hardening in their eyes. Outside, the sea whispered against the hull, as if urging them toward the storm ahead. Chapter 6. Poison Rum and Shadow Deals. The tavern known as the Rusted Cutlass reeked of stale ale, sweat, and secrets. Dim lanterns swung from the low beams, casting low shadows that danced with the flicker of candle flames. The air was thick with the murmur of hushed conversations and the occasional clatter of dice on worn wooden tables. Captain Marlowe and his crew slipped through the heavy oak doors, blending seamlessly with the crowd of rough-faced sailors, merchants, and dubious figures that filled the room. Keep your eyes sharp, Marlowe muttered as he scanned the room. This place is a den for the rogue admiral's men and their smugglers. One wrong move, and we're done. Lena adjusted the dagger strapped beneath her coat, her sharp gaze sweeping over the smoky haze. Rumor has it they laced the drinks here with more than just poison. Calder grinned, nodding toward the bar. That's why we'll start with a round on the house. Nothing like a little poison hospitality to loosen tongues. Rourke, still nursing bruises from the last mission, leaned close. I don't like it. Feels like we're walking into a trap. Marlowe's smile was tight. Exactly. But if we want to find out what the rogue admiral's up to, traps are the only way in. They settled at a shadowed corner table, ordering mugs of the tavern's strongest rum. The barkeep, a scrawny man with a missing eye, slid the drinks across with a crooked grin. Rum's on the house for travelers, he said, voice rough as gravel, but watch your backs. These waters got sharp teeth. Lena took a cautious sip, then grimaced. Tastes like it's been spiked. Marlowe nodded. Good, now listen. As the crew quietly sipped, a pair of men in naval uniforms pushed through the crowd, their badges gleaming faintly in the lantern light. Admiral's men, Calder whispered. Time to blend. Lena and Rourke exchanged glances and slid out from the table, weaving through the crowd toward the bar. Marlowe stayed behind, eyes on the entrance. The men took seats nearby, speaking in low tones about shipments, hidden caches, and a secret auction rumored to be coming soon. Calder leaned in, catching fragments of their conversation. There's talk of a smuggling ring using Skullmug Haven as a front. The rogue admiral's fingerprints are all over it. Lena returned, whispering, I spotted a contact, a woman with a green scarf. She's known to deal in stolen spy tech. Marlowe's jaws tightened. We need to find her. Just then a sudden commotion erupted near the back. A scuffle between two drunken sailors. The barkeep shouted, Take it outside! In the chaos, a shadowy figure slipped behind the bar and handed a folded note to Calder. He unfolded it carefully. Inside was a crudely drawn symbol of a kraken's eye and a location, the Shadow Docks. Looks like our green scarf friend left us a message, Calder said quietly. Marlowe nodded. Good work. We'll head to the docks at midnight. Before they could move, Lena caught sight of a man watching them from a dark corner, eyes cold, calculating. He's on to us, she hissed. We need to disappear. Marlowe's voice was low but firm. Time to vanish into the shadows, crew. This is only the beginning. As they slipped out into the night, the poison rum burned in their throats, a bitter reminder that in Skullmug Haven, trust was as rare as clean water. Chapter 7, Betrayal in the Wind. The silent gale drifted silently beneath a gray sky. The sails slack in the sudden calm that fell over the sea. The crew gathered on deck, unease thick in the salty air. Captain Marlowe paced with a storm behind his eyes, the weight of suspicion pressing down like a tightening noose. We've sailed through storms, ambushes, and enemy fleets, Marlowe began, voice low and heavy, but nothing cuts deeper than betrayal from within. Lena folded her arms, eyes sharp. You think one of us is a double agent? Marlowe stopped, gaze sweeping the crew. I don't think it, I know it. Someone's been feeding information to the rogue admiral's men. Someone who's walked alongside us, shared our fires, our secrets. Rourke scowled, stepping forward. We're a crew. We trust each other. Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now, Marlowe replied, eyes darkening. If this traitor isn't found, our next mission is doomed. Calder crossed his arms, voice grim. So how do we root them out? We can't just accuse everyone. Marlowe pulled a small vial from his coat, a clear liquid with a faint shimmer. This is truth serum. Not perfect, but it gets to the heart of lies. Lena's eyes widened. You want to make us all drink it? Marlowe nodded. We start with the core team, no exceptions. Rourke grunted but said nothing. Calder looked uneasy but said, If it finds the traitor, then it's worth it. One by one, the crew stepped forward. Marlowe poured drops into cups, and each pirate swallowed the bitter liquid with a grimace. Marlowe's voice was calm but probing. Who among you spoke to the Admiral's men? Who betrayed our plans? At first, only silence answered. Then Lena spoke, voice steady. I saw Calder near the docks before the last mission, talking to someone in a cloak. Calder's jaw tightened. I was gathering information. That doesn't make me a traitor. Marlowe's eyes narrowed. Under the serum, truth is clear. Calder's lips twitched into a bitter smile. Then ask me. Marlowe leaned closer. Did you betray us? Calder shook his head, eyes sharp. No, but someone else on this ship is lying. The tension twisted tighter. Suddenly, Rourke stepped back, knocking over a barrel. I saw Lena with a sealed letter from the tavern. I thought she was spying on us. Lena's eyes blazed. That was a decoy to flush out the real traitor. Marlowe's hand went to his dagger. Enough. He held up a small device, a hidden transmitter found under the captain's quarters floorboards. Someone planted this to track us, he said, and only one person had access to that room. The crew stared, breaths held. Calder's gaze flicked to Rourke. Your boots, mud from Skullmug Haven. You were supposed to be on lookout there. Rourke's face darkened. You don't have proof. Marlowe's voice was cold as the ocean depths. Not yet, but I will. The crew's unity cracked like a ship's hull under pressure. Lena whispered, We've got a shadow in our midst. Marlowe's eyes hardened. And we'll find it before it's too late. The wind picked up, rattling the rigging as the silent gale sailed deeper into the unknown. Her crew fractured but determined. Chapter 8. The Mirage City. The sun beat down mercilessly on the endless dunes surrounding the desert port of Al-Zahir. From a distance, the city shimmered like a dream, a mirage rising from the sand, its spires and minarets flickering in the heat haze. As a silent gale approached under cover of dawn, the crew prepared for the challenge ahead. Captain Marlowe stood at the bow, eyes narrowed against the glare. They say Al-Zahir vanishes by midday, swallowed by the desert itself, a city of ghosts and secrets. Lena adjusted her cloak, shielding her face from the scorching wind. A perfect place to hide a secret auction of stolen spy tech. Calder squinted, and perfect for a trap. Rourke wiped sweat from his brow. So how do we get inside a city that doesn't want to be found? Marlowe's lips curled into a faint smile. We blend with the shadows, just as we always do. The crew disembarked quietly, slipping into the narrow alleys where merchants hawked exotic wares, spices, fabrics, and strange devices glittering under the sun. The heat warped the air, making every corner seem to waver and dissolve. Lena approached a vendor selling intricate glass bottles. Any word of unusual gatherings, auctions? The vendor's eyes flicked nervously. Whispers of the Mirage Market. It only appears just before the city fades. Rich men bid on secrets and devices stolen from all across the seas. Calder stepped closer. We're looking for a contact, a woman known as the Viper. She deals in spy tech. The vendor hesitated, then nodded toward a narrow passage veiled by colorful tapestries. You'll find her there, but beware, the city is not kind to strangers. As they moved deeper, the air grew cooler, shadows lengthening despite the sun blaze. The crew exchanged wary glances, senses heightened. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Lena's arm. She spun, dagger at the ready, to see a slender figure cloaked in black silk. The Viper, Marlowe whispered from behind. The woman's eyes glittered. You seek the auction. Dangerous business for pirates, even disguised as spies. Marlowe stepped forward, voice smooth. We're willing to pay the price. The Viper smiled, revealing a glint of gold teeth. Good, but first, a test of loyalty. She led them through a maze of alleys to a hidden courtyard where a crowd gathered around a pedestal. On it lay a box, sealed, with a complex lock. To enter the auction, the Viper said, you must open this box without the key. Lena knelt, inspecting the lock. A puzzle lock? I've seen these before at Black Shadow Cove. Minutes ticked by as she worked the mechanisms, sweat dripping into the sand. Finally, with a satisfying click, the box popped open. The crowd murmured approval. Inside lay a small device, an intricate spy camera shaped like a scarab beetle. The Viper nodded. You're worthy. The auction begins at dusk. Meet me then alone. As the crew withdrew, the heat shimmered again, and the city around them began to blur, edges fading like smoke. Marlowe's voice was grim. We don't just face enemies here. We face the desert itself. Lena wiped her brow, and whatever waits in the shadows of the Mirage City. As the sun climbed higher, Al-Zahir vanished beneath the swirling sands, leaving only whispers and the promise of danger to guide them. Chapter 9. The Leviathan Protocol. The silent gale sliced through gray waves beneath a sky bruised with storm clouds. Captain Marlowe stood at the helm, eyes fixed on the horizon, where several small islands clustered like scattered teeth. We're close, he said, voice low but steady. The Leviathan Protocol isn't just a legend anymore. It's real, and it's deadly. Lena adjusted her spyglass. peering toward the nearest island. The network of spy devices controls a sea-based weapon. What kind of weapon? Marlowe's jaw clenched, one capable of sinking entire fleets from miles away, controlled remotely by those devices planted across the islands. Calder frowned. If we don't disable those devices, the rogue admiral could command a navy no one can fight. Rourke spat overboard. Sounds like we're sailing straight into a trap. Marlowe's voice hardened, which means we need to be ghosts and shadows in 3 places at once. The crew gathered around a map spread on the deck, Marlowe tracing 3 routes with a slender finger. These islands each hold a key node. We split into teams. Lena, you, and Calder take the Western Isle. Stealth and speed will be your allies. He looked to Rourke and himself. We hit the Central Island together, the heart of the network. Lena nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. And the Eastern Isle? Marlowe's gaze darkened. I'll send a message to our allies in nearby ports. They'll handle the last node, but we can't rely on them fully. Calder ran a hand through his hair. So it's up to us, and time's running out. As the teams prepared to disembark, Marlowe turned to Lena. Remember, each node is protected by traps, guards, and possibly other spy crews. Stay sharp. The silent gale anchored in a hidden cove, and the crew slipped into the small rowboats under the cover of twilight. Lena and Calder's boat cut silently toward the western island, waves whispering secrets as they approached dense jungle. Calder leaned over, voice low. The devices are said to emit a low hum. If we can find it, we can disable it. Lena nodded. And we need to be quick. Once they realize we're here, reinforcements will come. Meanwhile, on the Central Isle, Marlowe and Rourke moved like shadows through rocky cliffs and tangled underbrush. Suddenly, Marlowe stopped, holding up a hand. Hear that? A faint hum vibrated in the air, a mechanical pulse, steady and low. Rourke nodded. There! They crept forward, spotting a tall tower covered in blinking lights and antenna, the core device controlling the weapon. Marlowe whispered, "Plant the disruptor here. It'll scramble their signals long enough for us to dismantle the rest." Suddenly, voices echoed from behind a ridge. Enemy patrols closing in. Rourke drew his cutlass. Time to dance. Back on the Western Isle, Lena crouched beside a thick tree, the spy device camouflaged as a grotesque wooden carving. She produced a small tool, delicate and precise. "Almost there," she murmured, hand steady despite the pounding of her heart. Calder kept watch, eyes darting into the shadows. Suddenly, a twig snapped. "Ambush!" Calder hissed, drawing his pistol. From the bushes, enemy spies lunged, daggers flashing in the fading light. Lena spun, blocking a strike and twisting her attacker to the ground. "Calder, the device!" Calder fired, and Lena ripped the device free, smashing it against a rock. The hum ceased. "Device down," she called out. Back on the Central Isle, Marlowe planted the disruptor as guards surged forward. "Cover me," he shouted. Rourke charged, blades clashing in the dim light. Explosions of sparks and curses filled the air as they fought for the future of the seas. Chapter 10. Pirates Forever in the Shadows. The silent gale drifted in the fog-shrouded bay, its sails furled and the sea eerily still. Captain Marlowe stood at the helm, staring out at the dark horizon where enemy ships, rogue admiral's fleet, closed in like sharks circling prey. "We've done what no one thought possible," Marlowe said quietly, voice heavy with weariness and pride. "We've dismantled the Leviathan protocol, but now it's time to vanish." Lena tightened her cloak around her shoulders, the weight of countless missions settling on her. "Faking our destruction won't be easy. The Admiral's fleet won't give up the chase so easily. Marlowe's gaze was steady. They'll believe what they want. The ocean loves a good ghost story. Rourke hefted a barrel of powder, grinning despite the tension. Ready to blow this ship to bits, Captain. Calder checked the hidden compartments in his boots, eyeing the rigging, and disappeared beneath the waves like we never existed. Marlowe nodded. This is the last dance. We'll stage an explosion so fierce the Admiral's men will think the silent gale sank to the depths. Then we vanish. New names, new faces, new legends. As the crew moved with practiced precision, the ship was rigged with carefully placed barrels of black powder, ready to ignite on Marlowe's command. Lena glanced toward the shore, where shadows moved, watchers from the Admiral's fleet, hungry for revenge. Once the fire starts, we have minutes to escape, she said. The sea's cold and the shore is no friend. Are we ready? Marlowe's voice was calm but fierce. We faced worse odds. We'll survive. We have to. The moment came. Marlowe struck a match, and the flame raced along the fuses, crackling like the heartbeat of the ship itself. Run, he shouted. Flames roared to life, engulfing barrels and sending shock waves through the silent gale. The crew sprinted for the lifeboats, hearts pounding. Explosions tore through the night, smoke and fire licking the sky. The ship groaned and shattered, collapsing into the sea with a thunderous roar. Lena gripped the oar as the lifeboat cut through the dark waters. They'll search for us, but they'll only find ashes and shadows. Calder scanned the horizon, and that's exactly what we want. Marlowe looked back once, the fiery wreckage lighting his weathered face. Pirates forever in the shadows, no longer hunted, no longer seen. Rourke cracked a rare smile. Legends in the mist. As dawn broke, the crew rowed toward an uncertain future. Ghosts of the seas, bound not by gold or glory, but by secrets and silence. The ocean swallowed their past, and their legend began.